all know the Petz franchise, beloved beacon of nostalgia for 2000s kids.
What? Late 90s? Oh, okay.
It grew in popularity by allowing you to live out your wildest fantasies, including such shenanigans as being able to afford a pet, and saving the world from a demonic wolf you accidentally unleashed upon your island by giving him your dad's magic top hat. Now, you may be asking yourself, Avery, I don't think I heard that second one properly. Would you like to repeat that? Don't worry, I'm here to give you a needlessly detailed overview, because I want more people to know about this game, and moderation is just another word in the dictionary for me. Catz, or as it is known in America for some reason, Petz Catz 2, is in fact an adventure game. At least the PS2 and Wii versions are. And no, I do not have the tiniest hecking hint of a clue as to why it's such a vast departure from its prequels, but I am not here to complain, because cats? Kind of slaps, actually. There's also a dog version? And no, I'm not talking about the Dog Island, but that's also a cool game you should check out. It's literally just the exact same game, but with dogs instead of cats, and some differences in items. This video will be covering the cat version only because I've played far too much Pokemon recently, and I don't feel like playing yet another game twice with the excuse of minimal differences between game versions. Now, obviously I'm saying this through my rose-tinted nostalgia goggles, which may or may not be dislodged as I replay this game for the first time in years, but Catz was one of my absolute favorite games growing up. It was the first game I ever got for the PS2, and I deadass didn't even know how to read English when I started playing it. This game helped teach me how to read English. Well, I could probably file a lawsuit against this game for giving me the ability that would later allow me to be subject to reading tweets. I'm not going to, because I adored this game. I distinctly remember replaying the main story over and over and over again because it just scratched a really specific itch in my 6-year-old brain. And also, I just really liked cats. Without the Z. Now that I have acquired a, brand new real PS2 console, I decided, you know what? I'm going to replay all of my childhood games, and I'm going to subject everyone who decides to stick through this video to my deranged ramblings about niche 2000s games, and whether or not they hold up today. Sound good? Good! Allow me to accompany you on a journey back to 2007. I start off by selecting my breed of cat. Traditionally, I've always gone for the Angora because fluffy black cats rock, but I haven't played this game in over a decade, and I like to think that I've grown as a person over that time. So, I go for this other fluffy cat instead, have my standard beginning of game gender crisis, and proceed to have a chat with my cat parents, Arvin and Ione. Eon? I don't know. Oh, this? It's just the magic hat, passed down from ancestor to ancestor. Protects our entire island. No biggie. After some foreshadowing about as subtle as a solar eclipse, our childhood friend Victor drags us outside in true Pokemon fashion to go point and laugh at the big bad wolf who they've finally put in prison. And may I just say, that is the freakiest looking wolf I've ever seen in my life. Ma'am, I don't know what you've got there, but it's definitely not a wolf. Anyway, the police cat? Sheriff? Ada catches us and tells us to buzz off, so we decide to go faff around at Dolphin Coast for a bit and come back at nighttime. We roleplay as Victor's edgy original character, who is a thief. No, I'm not joking. And go through some standard tutorial missions, including such riveting things as learning to walk, learning to smell things, and other such novelties. Okay, it is a kid's game, I'm not trying to take the piss. We also dig up Victor's bug cage and fishing tackle, along with a bunch of fruits and whatnot, and learn how to catch fish and bugs. Yes, this game has honest-to-God collections to fill out. Animal Crossing who? I only know cats. As Sun Tzu once said, every good video game has a fishing minigame. We also scare some kiwis. I'm so sorry. That that wraps up the tutorial missions. Not the Kiwis, that was just me being a jerk. So, we go to leave Dolphin Coast, only to be interrupted by Augusta, who overheard us talking about Ivlet and is prepared to give us an earful about his devious, dastardly deeds. Yeah, so anyway, when we get home, our mom wants us to take donuts around to all the villagers. One of which violently curb-stomped me with vivid memories of trying to voice act this game at 6 years old. The 2000s sure were a time. We're tipped generously by most of the townsfolk except for this guy. Yeah, Tom? How do you feel about your entire existence running that pawn shop being a joke on the words tomcat and paw, huh? The sun had already speed-ran its way across the sky by the time we were finished giving out the donuts, so we meet Victor to go, stare at Ivlet, who is awake now, and immediately manages to convince us to show him the magic hat. My guy's got charisma 20. To the surprise of absolutely no one, except Victor. Ivlet proceeds to steal the hat, leading to this glorious image, and wreaks havoc across the entire island, destroying houses and bridges and setting all the zoo animals loose in a really freaking long cutscene, actually. Good lord, we're really getting a comprehensive account of Cat's lore, huh? Anyway, cutting back to us, we've been thrown in jail. Yeah, Ada doesn't mess around. Augusta swoops in to vouch for us and convinces Ada to give us a second chance. Only for Victor to lock himself in a cell out of guilt not 10 seconds later. Whatever floats your boat, buddy. We're saddled with the task of helping everyone on the island who was hurt due to Ivlet's rampage, and after brooding outside for a bit, are approached by... the personification of the good half of the magic hat. My running theory is that that purple powder that Ivlet was hurling about was actually hallucinogenic. Anyway, their name is Beat, and they are a small, useless creature who can't do much except give helpful advice. You can probably already tell where this is going. Jesus Christ, this thing is the stuff of nightmares. The next day, they give us an encyclopedia with a suspiciously alchemic-looking symbol on it that'll keep track of all our collectibles. After a couple of handy hints, we're off to the races. This is where the game really begins. Is that a fucking plane? Okay. Our first quest is to find some cotton cloth for Gertrude to help fix her shop. She teaches us how to defend ourselves from enemy with the power of our mighty meow before sending us off to Lappy Lake, whose bridge has been conveniently fixed. Man, I remember the height of gaming being trying to get your cat to walk straight down the map transition path. Those were the days. We take a dip with some crocodiles who either don't really seem to care about our presence or are just legally blind, and watch the stork phase in and out of existence before actually going to dig up the cotton on the center island. I also take the opportunity to catch any insects and dig up any plants I find because, come on, I'm obviously going to try to 100% this niche game from 2007. What kind of dunce do you take me for? After taking the cotton back to Gertrude, we make the apparently shocking discovery that our mom can make cloth out of it. At least the game wants us to be shocked. With that tiny contribution, the drugstore is fixed, along with some very out-of-place victory music. We can buy healing items here like tinned fish, but this may come as a surprise, but I've never once needed to use a healing item in this kid's game, so, call this a challenge run, if you like. Next order of business is to help out Tom, who twisted his paw running from Ivlet. Much as I would love to leave you to your fate, I'm legally obligated to help you. Unfortunately, Gertrude is out of herb oil, so we have to go track down some chamomile in Jade Fields. I honestly forgot how fast-paced this game is. I remember it being a lot slower than this. Then again, maybe I was just stupid and had ADHD, so I got sidetracked by everything. It's probably a better explanation. I scared this pig because I'm an asshole and suffer instant karma by failing to catch this easy-ass butterfly. I should really be a better person. Anyway, the game tells you that you need to know what strawberries and pansies smell like to be able to track down the chamomile, but you can just follow the question mark scent and dig it up early. I'm not going to, because I want to explore a little bit, but yeah, all it does is it changes a question mark into a picture of a chamomile. In my quest to do everything except the objective, I mess around catching bugs and also find this prairie dog. Beat tells me I can catch it by using my good old sniffer, so I proceed to completely ignore their advice and just dig at the moving shadow on the ground. This, my friend, is what we call speedrun tactics. Once I've wrung the area dry of collectibles, I finally return to Gertrude with the chamomile and, with great reluctance, give the resulting herb oil to Tom. Gertrude, apparently, is a wizard, because her herb oil instantly cures his twisted paw. I feel like I should fear her more. With that done, Tom tips us off that some guy named Saul went off to the creatively named Whisker Woods and never came back. You know, considering everything we've been looking for so far has been buried underground, this game could take a very dark turn if it wasn't rated E for everyone. We take a quick detour through North Paulville, dig up Ada's secret canned tuna stash from under the floorboards of the police station before her very eyes, and get the quest to find 30 special vegetables and special fruits for these sketchy cats to increase our hearts by 1, respectively. This isn't worth it, like, at all, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I have a compulsive need to do everything a game has to offer, and I'm going to be digging them up as I go along anyway. It basically just means that when you dig up a specific type of fruit or vegetable, it has a chance to be special. As soon as we step into Whisker Woods, Saul senses my presence with his Ultra Instinct abilities and shouts a tutorial for crouching at me from across the map. Nice. Honestly, I think Whisker Woods might be one of my favorite maps from this game. The music is just so calming. I remember leaving the game on here just so I could listen to it. Anyway, Saul tells you to find his top quality canned fish for him on the way, but if you don't dig it up until after you rescue him, you can actually come back for it later and keep it for yourself. It's one of the best healing items in the game if I remember right. I'm not going to do this because the pig butterfly situation back in Jade Fields opened my eyes and made me realize I should consider the people around me, but, you know, if you're playing this game and you want a free healing item, it's there. Also, I just want to mention at this point that every time you dig up a certain amount of collectibles, you unlock a new fashion accessory for when the fashion shop is back up and running. And one of these accessories is a fur cap, which has some very disturbing implications in this cute animal world, but I'm going to leave it at that. I did my usual run through of the area and found this toucan who was just having the absolute time of their life. Godspeed. Anyway, once again I completely ignore all the advice Saul gave me and ran right by the snakes with no regard for my well-being. In my defense, I really wanted that lavender. Just to show up those sketchy cats in North Paulville even more, bringing Saul back gives you a health upgrade. 5 a day? Who needs them? This also causes me to unlock a deep repressed memory and return home to quickly dig up some items from the void, before continuing on with the main story. Clara is in need of some bricks to repair her flower bed and asks us to go grab some from Kenneth, who in turn asks us to get some clay from back in Jade Field so he can make some more bricks. Now, we could go do that, or instead, we could go talk to my long-lost twin sister and go on a research fishing trip. I think I know which one I prefer. Once again ignoring my responsibilities, I go with my long-lost cousin Maria to her family's secret island to catch some rare fish for her. Also, can I just point out how pretty this place is, especially for PS2 standards? It's also a great time to show off the game's idle animations. Look at this shit, it's adorable! Game of the year every year. This is a fun little side quest that usually doesn't take too long. Unfortunately, I got bodied by RNG and spent 20 minutes just trying to find this one fish. This doesn't bode well for an endgame quest veterans of this game might remember. Once I've caught all the fish my long-lost greyhound twice removed asked for, she gives me a choice of rare butterfly, of which I obviously pick the gay rights one, before she brings me back to Jade Fields and I finally go find that clay for Kenneth. I'd just like to point out that these snakes have no spatial awareness whatsoever. Do you have to greet me like this every time, man? Anyway, we bring the newly made bricks to Clara, who fixes up the flower beds around town so we can plant flowers and insects in them. It's a cool little detail that I'm glad they included. It makes the world feel a little more alive, and they didn't have to do it. I pretty up the town a little bit before heading down to help out Sheila with the fashion house repairs. Something I'm actually really excited about because the stuff you can buy here is really cool. Who doesn't like putting hats on cats? Sheila, ever the girl boss, doesn't even want help fixing up the fashion house. She just wants to see everyone smile again. She asks us to go find the legendary pattern, made by the famous designer Townsend, whose clothing designs always put a smile on everyone's face. Unfortunately, he's a little bit dead, so we have to go track down his son and get it off of him instead. She tells us to go ask Ada for more information, who tells us that the son's name is Sai, and to go ask Augusta for more information, who tells us that, yeah, she actually saw Sai the other day over by Lappy Lake, conveniently enough. Sure enough, he's on the same island where we got the cotton last time, and says he'll lend us the legendary pattern in exchange for one of our mom's home-cooked cherry pies. Our rabbit collecting finally pays off, since we already had some cherries on hand for the recipe. See, it's not a reckless need for perfectionism, it's thinking ahead! After getting the legendary pattern from Sai in exchange for the pie, the fashion house was magically fixed up. Not that I'm complaining, this is pretty much the only shop I care about. I'm absolutely in love with this witch's hat, but I can't afford it yet, so I just buy the scarf instead so I can stop looking so vanilla. My legs totally phase through it, but that's okay. I will suffer for fashion. Anyway, next we have to talk to Charles, who is the funniest looking cat I've ever seen, and help him with the aquarium. He already has a carpenter fixing the building itself, but wants some wood to repair the aquarium since that the village kittens painted for him. I don't know which village kittens, because I haven't seen a single one in all of Pawville, but I'm willing to indulge his strange delusions and just go find some materials for him. One quick trip to Whisker Woods yields the wood we need, and we head back to town to fix up the aquarium. I was under the impression that this was like Animal Crossing, where you donate one of each kind of fish, but instead you can just kinda put whatever on display, even multiples of the same fish, and they all have different sizes. It's pretty cool, I guess. I think I remember messing around with this a lot as a kid. It's also at this point that I discover you can make absolute bank from Tom's pawn shop. Maybe I misjudged you, my guy. I immediately go back to get my witch hat before heading to North Pawville to help Godfrey with his water wheel. He wants to get it fixed as soon as possible since he built it with his partner back in the day, but unfortunately some people had the audacity to have their houses destroyed, so they get priority when it comes to carpentry. We pop back home to ask our dad if he might know about anything to make work go faster, and he gives us the revolutionary idea of rewarding someone for their work. Thanks, Dad. We can always count on you. Stanley, the carpenter, says he would like to hear music as he works. Apparently, MP3 players were never invented in this universe. Our dad offers up the solution of catching an orchestra insect (male), who will act as our theoretical MP3 player, and tells us to go ask Warren, the naturalist, about the orchestra insect (male). Man, I love this game. So we head up to Dolphin Coast to find Warren, who tells us that the orchestra insect (male) can be found in Jade Fields. There sure is a lot of just asking other people about stuff in this game, huh? Anyway, nabbing the orchestra insect okay, I'll stop. Nabbing the orchestra insect doesn't take long at all. We bring it back to Stanley and I am genuinely surprised that the water wheel doesn't get fixed at the end of this quest. Cats? Having realistic waiting times? No way. Stanley tells us to go learn, call from Sai at Lappy Lake, who, much like Saul, also calls to us from across the map, and then proceeds to ride across the lake on a hippo, you know, as one does. I don't know what a hippo is doing here, but sure. He's so smugly casual about it too, what the hell? He says he'll teach it to us in exchange for one of Mom's pear tarts. I mean, yeah, you know what? I respect the hustle. I'd also want to be paid in pastries in exchange for weird niche skills. Once again, our collecting addiction saves the day, allowing us to basically just speedrun this entire quest. Of course, by the time we've learned how to call, the water wheel gets fixed, but now apparently something else is up with it. But right now, that's not important. I'm going to take a ride on this hippo instead. We've truly reached our peak. All there is on the island the hippo takes you to is a fishing pier and some rare collectibles. And also this tiny pink bird that makes some absolutely adorable sounds. Anyway, we hurry over to North Pawville to find that no longer is the wheel and water wheel the problem, but instead the water. In other words, the river kinda decided to peace out. Apparently the waterfalls up in Whisker Woods froze over thanks to Ivlet, so we're sent off to our dad yet again to find out what mystical wisdom he might have to bestow on us. Half expecting him to say to just set the waterfall on fire. But no, not quite. He gives us a warm stone and instructs us to heat it up in a hot spring and then use it to melt the waterfall. And, as is just our luck, Stanley has just finished repairing both the bridge to the hot springs and the stairs leading up to the roaring falls. Well, ain't that just a funny coinky-dink? I'd also just like to point out that the river in front of the waterfall isn't frozen, and also that this section of river flows out to the ocean anyway. I can only assume that the part that actually flows to Pawville is this bit here, which is definitely not frozen. I can't believe we don't have geographical consistency in this kids game from 2007. I'm going to be writing a strongly worded letter to the developers responsible. Alright, I'm done taking the piss. We heat up the stone we got from Magic Cat Dad in the hot spring and then use it to melt the waterfall. Even though there's no way something outside the wheel to instantly melt the waterfall like this, grumble grumble grumble, and go back to Godfrey, who sends us off to Augusta because there is no rest for the wicked. On the way there though, Charles asks us to bring him a lava stone to increase the aquarium's tank capacity, so we make a U-turn for Whisker Woods to go quickly pick one up, which, by the way, instantly killed my controller. I knew I couldn't trust anyone with that sort of fashion sense. Anyway, we head on over to Dolphin Coast, where Augusta is having trouble with those darn moles messing up her farm. In a stunning display of overkill dominance, we plug up the holes with this boulder 4 times our size and learn how to, push boulders for our efforts. Wow, it's just like an unpaid internship. Afterwards, she lets us know we should go help out at the zoo, and let me just say, finally! Rebuilding the zoo unlocks one of my absolute favorite game mechanics. I have been waiting for this moment. The problem this time is that, in exchange for helping Kenneth rebuild the zoo, Godfrey wants to borrow his copy of Twilight. Unfortunately, Kenneth has already lent his copy of Twilight to a cat called Daisy who lives in Tail Heights. 3 guesses as to where we're going next. While crossing through Lappy Lake, we're finally able to get the boulder off of where this item is buried, which has been driving me absolutely insane anytime I go sniffing around there. Now I can finally know peace. We find Stanley already at the bridge to Tail Heights, but shockingly enough, it's actually not fixed yet. The reason being that his orchestra insect (male) is no longer blasting the Poke Park 2 Wonders Beyond Dance Inferno theme on loop, and so Stanley cannot work anymore. I feel ya, buddy. And so we go all the way back to Dolphin Coast to bug Warren for answers. The answer is, of course, that Stanley's pet bug is outrageously horny and has fallen into a depression due to not having a lady friend. Paraphrased, of course. So now we need to go find him in orchestra insect (female) so that Stanley can continue to third wheel their serenades. What a weird solution this is. My guy, just download Spotify. I promise you it will be less hassle. Anyway, we pop by Whisker Woods to just casually find yet another specimen of what is apparently an endangered species, hand that endangered specimen over to a carpenter, and watch him fix the bridge in a matter of seconds. Gaming. We stop by Tail Heights to pick up Kenneth's copy of Twilight, and swiftly return it to him so that we can finally get the zoo fixed up. With that done, we have unlocked minigames. Whenever we find an escaped zoo animal out in the wilderness, we can challenge them to an array of different minigames to convince them to come back. It is so incredibly stupid, and it is my absolute favorite thing about this game. For now though, Cat Dad apparently has something important to tell us, so we head home and are given yet another magical artifact passed down through our family for generations. The warp ring just lets you up to other save stones, and it's practically useless right now because we've only found the one save stone. It'll be nice for later though. Immediately after, we're told to go to Jade Fields after Ada, who just kinda rushed off. Entering Jade Fields, we see this just massive vulture hovering nearby, but we're just going to ignore that for now, because now I finally have a justifiable reason to bully this pig. He stole Ada's nondescript junk, so she teaches us how to catch animals and get lunch money, cool items from them. With that short little detour done, she instructs us to go help out Augusta with fieldwork again. But I'm going to make this an even longer detour and go check out this vulture, who challenges us to a freaking rodeo battle. And may I just say, the composer went off with this minigame music. Like, goddamn, does this not just get you pumped up for anything? These minigames are pretty easy, so I don't have a lot to say about them other than, you're riding a freaking vulture! I am going to die! Fortunately, we win and return to land safe and sound, breaking the spell Ivlet cast on the vulture, after which they decide to go back to the zoo. The little white star on the map means there's another escaped animal here though, so I go to challenge this boar to an obstacle race, which, you know, isn't hard at all because you're faster than the boar, but it's really cool that they made a unique map for it. I can respect that. Also, this boar is so polite, I love them. With all the animals in Jade Fields returned to the zoo, I finally deign Augusta worthy of my time and head over to Dolphin Coast to give her a hand. She teaches us the actually very useful skill of clocking enemies on the back of their head with a rock in order to knock them out. Thanks, Augusta! There is an animal on the beach, but we're immediately teleported back to Pawville to witness Ivlet paying a visit to cause some mischief. He's kind of a legend, honestly. Like, imagine going up to a group of people and just scratching your ear menacingly at them. Oh yeah, he also summons an eternal rain as well. Kinda forgot that part. Good old Cat Dad once again pulls a solution out of his ass and tells us to go ask Clara about the Apollo's flower. And, okay, I haven't been bringing this up as it's been happening, but literally every time a character tells you to go somewhere or talk to someone, they give you really specific directions about where to find them. Like, kids aren't that dumb, right? I was a kid once. I don't think I was that dumb. Oh, who am I kidding? I was probably that dumb, actually. Clara tells us that you can find the flower on a small island off Dolphin Coast, and then to talk to Warren about how to actually get over there. The rain is magically not active on the beach though, so I take a minute to go challenge the elephant to a sled race, and, actually almost lose. I don't want to talk about it. Oh my god, the elephant looks so sad. With that out of the way, I bully some Kiwis and go pester Warren again, who's probably sick of seeing my face by now. He helpfully tells us to go ask a dolphin, probably just to get me to leave him alone rather than his actual advice, but joke's on him. I know how to press X on this side. I'll be right back. I go quickly catch a sardine and bribe a dolphin to ferry me over to that tiny island and dig up the Apollo's flower. It's a good thing that getting a quest item automatically teleports you back to where you need to go, because if you don't have a second sardine, the dolphins will hold you hostage on that island. Yeah, there's a pier to catch more sardines, but it's the principle. Anyway, we plant a flower in the center of town and it magically clears the rain, yada yada yada. It's actually a really cool name for a flower, I'll give it that. Meanwhile, Cat Dad is starting to worry that Ivlet may well graduate from causing a small village to experience the Irish lifestyle to straight up destroying the entire world. So he tells us to go seek out the great wizard Theophilus in the creatively named Sky Heights. Access through Tail Heights, who could have guessed? We're getting into the mid to late game by this point, so this is not a long game at all. Time really flies as you get older, huh? On our way through Lappy Lake, this absolutely terrifying monkey challenges us to a game of dodgeball. Joke's on you, monkey, this was the only sport I was decent at in school. This one's a little tricky because of the literal curveballs they can throw at you, but you can also just combo them in the butt when they go to grab more balls, so... Anyway, I knocked this crane out of the sky before finally entering Tail Heights, which is the first new area we're getting to explore in quite a oh. No, we're still bricked off. Toby here forgot the importance of social distancing and caught his wife's cold, so we have to quickly go fetch some medicine from Gertrude before we can continue. This takes all of 2 seconds with the warp ring, but of course she's out of stock, so we have to go track down some thyme at Lappy Lake. This also doesn't take very long at all, so within a couple of minutes, we're back at Tail Heights and can finally get to explore, saving the world, I guess. Toby tells us to go to the windmill to reach Sky Heights, so of course I completely ignore him and just faff around for a bit. And, okay, I know I've been complimenting the soundtrack a lot, but the track for this area is genuinely so beautiful and calming. A far cry from the gameplay in this area, which mainly consists of sneaking around and stunning the enemies in your way, since they're for once a legitimate threat in this area. I find this giraffe just standing menacingly in this dead-end round room as if they're a fucking legendary Pokemon, and they challenge me to a game of what everyone has thought about doing to a giraffe at least once in their life. Ring toss. After crushing the point minimum and their dreams, I continue on my way and finally reach the windmill, which is right next to this wacky looking gate. Predictably, the windmill is broken and it's the only way to open the gate, so we have to go all the way back to Warren to see if he knows of a way to get rid of these briars. We should really just have the guy on speed dial at this point. I speed past all the enemies because I fear neither snakes nor God and hurry along back to Dolphin Coast to see Warren. He tells us about the very scientifically named bramble-eating insect, of which he conveniently has some in captivity. No, they escaped. Coincidentally, their natural habitat is, you guessed it, back in Tail Heights. So we rubber band our way right back, rip the little guy out of the ground, and bring them back to the windmill for the feast of a lifetime. Now, those were magic briars, so I don't know what effect it'll have on this bug, but that is no longer my problem. With that, we can finally pass through the gate and into Sky Heights, where Theophilus immediately projects the hologram to meet us and asks us to come to his mansion. What is it with everyone in this world immediately knowing when I enter the map? Anyway, once again, I'd like to bring attention to the soundtrack here. It manages to sound all mysterious, adventurous, and yet slightly threatening at the same time. Quite fitting for, you know, a poisonous bog, and just... they did not need to go this hard on Petz Catz too. Now, we will get poisoned if we just walk through the poisonous water, go figure. So we have to sniff out a path that is, magically non-poisonous. Yeah, I don't get it either, just go with it. Afterwards, there's an area where you pretty much have to get poisoned if you want to get all the items, but thankfully there's a bunch of antidotes buried around here, so it's honestly not that big of an issue. And yes, I do end up having to use healing items here because of said poison, but it's not an enemy, so I don't count it. Anyway, I procrastinate talking to the Great Wizard and instead run a barrel race with this panda that's just kinda hanging out here. Of course it's pathetically easy, so it's not long before we finally go to talk to Theophilus. He tells us that the magic hat is slowly corrupting Ivlet into pure evil, and that once the hat turns black, he will just straight up destroy the world. In order to even have a chance at defeating him, we need to make something called the Magic Shield. He tells us all the ingredients and their locations now, but I'm just going to mention them as we go along to avoid information overload. First, we need to get the water crystal at Monolith Isle, which we can reach by taking a boat from Dolphin Coast. Upon reaching the dock though, to the surprise of absolutely no one, the lighthouse is snapped in half, and they're out of fuel regardless. This, of course, presents quite the safety hazard, but Sai just so happens to be carrying around some lighthouse fuel in his pocket. So this pirate cat sends us off to find him again. Screw Theophilus, I'm pretty sure this guy is the actual wizard. Ever the connoisseur of fine cuisine. When we find Sai at Lappy Lake, he asks us to catch him a swordfish. All the way back at Dolphin Coast. I'm really starting to feel like a ping pong ball. Anyway, we quickly nab a sardine as protection money to the Dolphin Mafia so that they take us safely across to that tiny island, and quickly assert dominance over the local sea life by hooking a swordfish on the first cast. After obtaining the goods from Sai, we head back to see the pirate and get the lighthouse up and running again. And now it's time for the area that scared the absolute wits out of me when I was but a little 6-year-old playing this game for the first time. And once again, it's thanks to the absolutely stellar composition work done here. It's so incredibly unsettling and creeped me the hell out whenever I went to Monolith Isle. I'll leave it playing in the background for y'all. Anyway, Beat freaks out because the sun doesn't rise within 10 seconds of us arriving on the island. But this is apparently justified since Noel, guardian of the water crystal, overhears us and tells us that Ivlet actually cast an eternal night over Monolith Isle. I don't see why this would be a problem for cats, but they want us to go find the magic mirror to break Ivlet's curse. But, before that, I have a confession to make. While exploring the island, I tried to catch this butterfly and I got hit by a vulture. I'm sorry. I know this is incredibly disappointing, but sometimes even the best of us take damage in a kid's game. To make myself feel better after this grievous blow to my pride, I go and bully this escaped zoo gorilla, which I have to ask. The boat wasn't running until we fixed the lighthouse just now. Did this gigachad of an ape just swim across the fucking ocean to get here? What possessed them to do it? What made them look out over Dolphin Coast and decide that Monolith Isle was where they were meant to be? The great questions that even science still can't answer. Anyway, after narrowly dodging another vulture, we find the magic mirror and break Ivlet's curse. In return for once again being able to be blinded by that great sun up above, Noel opens the way to Bubble Cave, where the water crystal is kept with just the power of their meow. I wonder if these cats are descended from dragons. I wouldn't be surprised. There are canon dragons in this game after all. Oh, spoilers. I'd also just like to point out real quick that the music doesn't change after daybreak. It's still just this spooky tune. Forever? I mean, I'm into it, I just have to wonder if they forgot? Regardless, it's time for Bubble Cave. This place legitimately terrified me as a child. Yes, I was a scaredy cat, what about it? If I'm going to be honest, it still kinda gives me the heebie-jeebies, so I make sure to go through every nook and cranny on the first time through so that we don't have to come back here as much. It's also here where we first encounter bats and Komodo dragons as enemies. And trust me, they will be recurring villains for the next while. Bats aren't a huge issue as long as you don't run near them. Komodo dragons, though, are a different story. You can't stun them with pebbles. The most you can do is lure them out of position. This, as you can see, caught me off guard here, and I very nearly shit my pants. I managed to get this treasure chest, but it did catch me on the way back, so now I've taken 2 hits from enemies. This playthrough is really humbling me. I also found this dolphin call spot in a cave. I don't think I actually ever found this when I was a kid because I rushed through the cave so that I could get out as quickly as possible. These dolphins have a more refined palate, however, and want red sea breams, which I have no idea where to catch, so I'll just have to note this down for later. With exploration out of the way, though, we find the water crystal and bring it back to Theophilus, who tells us to now go get the earth crystal from Inferno Cave. As we collect the crystals, we'll also be able to gradually move the boulders with 2, 3, and 4 paw prints on them, which will definitely be nice for secret hunting later. Anyway, to get to Inferno Cave, we have to go through Crystal Caverns, which, much like Bubble Cave, I have some rather traumatic memories regarding that place. To steel myself for the trials ahead, I give Whisker Woods another sweep, since we really haven't been back here in a hot minute. I convinced this very funny bear to return to the zoo by catching them a brook trout, which I think is the only animal that doesn't challenge you to a minigame, and then play a run of treasure hunting with this kiwi, before de-stressing with a little bit of fishing. And I say a little bit, but I decided I wanted a golden carp, and unfortunately, after a straight half-hour of fishing, I caught it! That's the first time I've managed to catch a golden fish, I think. By the way, there's a golden fish in every area. Anyway, with no more distractions, we finally head into Crystal Caverns, which, as you may have come to expect from this game by now, has some truly haunting music. It's also full of cobras and bats. You can probably see why this game traumatized me. After making a run for it past this Komodo dragon, which just didn't care, we make it into Inferno Cave. I will try to restrain myself from praising the music yet again. We are immediately turned away by Percy, who says that we'll never survive the trek to the Earth Crystal without a flame-retardant suit, and tells us to come back with some Komodo dragon skin and brass wire from Crystal Caverns. So we walk back out, meow so loudly at this Komodo dragon that it literally jumps out of its skin, and then sneak past this bat to grab some brass wire. With that done, Percy can make us a brand spankin' new flame-retardant suit for us to pass through Inferno Cave. Of course, we immediately undermine his generous offer by going back to the fashion house to get a different color suit. While there, I also buy this pumpkin beret because who wouldn't? With that done, we return to Inferno Cave in our what can only be described as weird Halloween costume and go hunt down the Earth Crystal. I also just want to take this moment to mention that while writing this section of the script, I have mixed up Crystal Cavern and Inferno Cave into Crystal Cave and Inferno Cavern just an endless number of times. There's far too many caves and caverns in this game. Anyway, Inferno Cave is our first instance of the temperature mechanic. As we move throughout the cave, we have to constantly drink water to prevent ourselves from overheating. This wouldn't be a problem if there weren't bats everywhere who hear you take a single sip of water and proceed to go into an unhinged, bloodthirsty rage. I actually get hit. Twice. I don't want to talk about it. My controller also decides to take another nap in the middle of the cave, which, thankfully, I was near a pool of water with no enemies around when it happened, but that could have been really bad. I feel like this is going to happen again during the final boss. Luckily for my little completionist monkey brain, this area is fairly linear on the first go-around, so despite me taking my sweet time, it's not long before we get our paws on the Earth Crystal. We bring it back to Theophilus, and next order of business is to find the final component, the Ice Crystal, over in Polar Fields, which is conveniently enough also reached through Crystal Caverns, and even more conveniently doesn't have cave or cavern in the name, meaning I won't mix them up. On our way through South Pavel, we run into Charles, who once again has a quest for us. So, let me get this straight. He told his fish studies group that he caught a golden anglerfish, and now that they, understandably, want to see it, he wants us to go catch it for him instead, because he just straight up lied to them about actually catching it. Why are we supposed to like this guy again? Passing through Whisker Woods, I decide to tie up all the loose ends and catch all the bugs and fish available here. I actually catch a second golden carp before even managing to catch the final fish I need, one of the supposedly most common fish in this area. Obviously I didn't send it to the aquarium. I think I'm just going to boycott it for the rest of this run. Of course it then takes me 15 minutes to find the last fish, because my luck likes to do handstands on occasion. With that, I've officially 100%ed Whisker Woods and we can go forth into the Crystal Caverns yet again. There's a bunch of places we just can't get to with our current toolkit, but I do find this wall that we can just summon a hedgehog to dig through. That's honestly the best thing I've seen all day. It leads to this huge cave full of butterflies, which I get absolutely trounced by bats while trying to catch. Man, I really underestimated those fuckers. I also get bullied by this snake while trying to dig up a potato that didn't even end up being special anyway. My pride is practically on its deathbed by now. Anyway, we make it to Polar Fields with our life intact and then immediately proceed to get bullied by Hugo, who laughs at us for just being here and offers to trade us some warm clothing in exchange for a ripe coconut from Dolphin Coast. I don't know why I can't just give him one of the coconuts I've already been hoarding, but whatever floats your boat, man. We warp on over and knock down a coconut with our pebble throwing skills before returning to Hugo to get our warm clothing. Of course, as soon as we get it, I'm right back at Pawville to buy a different color because saving the world can afford to wait a few minutes for the sake of fashion. What's the point of defeating the big bad if you don't look good while doing it? Polar Fields is a similar deal to Inferno Cave in terms of temperature. To avoid freezing to death, we have to take frequent dips in hot springs. I say similar because honestly, Polar Fields is 10 times easier to go through. For one, it's not as cramped, there's no bats, and the hot springs can bring you all the way to the hot end of the temperature gauge, giving you more time to explore between dips. Overall, this is a more chill experience, no pun intended. Also, it has better music, don't at me. The first thing we do upon arriving is to challenge this penguin to a game of curling, and Oh boy! I could not for the life of me get this to work properly, which is weird, because I have no memory of having trouble with this when I was a kid. I was sitting there for 5 minutes just trying to get my dumb little cat to move, and when I did, I could not figure out what actually got it to move, because to me it seemed like I was literally just doing the same thing over and over. So on the next turn I'd be there for a solid minute just trying to repeat whatever I did, and this penguin kept calling me a coward every time I lost, and I was just having a really bad day, okay? It also only seemed to work if I aimed for the right or left side of the field, like it didn't let me go towards the middle at all. In the end I had to resort to doing these weird trick shots, which I swear to god would always land me in the same spot no matter how I angled the control stick. And then I had to contend with the fact that the area recognition sucks, because it was clearly on the blue area here, but no! After several attempts, I managed to get a tie by the skin of my teeth, but no, that doesn't count. I have to do it again and somehow beat this little shit. I eventually just gave up, reset the game, and tried mucking around with my controller settings to see if I could fix it. I could not, but I did end up figuring out a slightly more consistent workaround to get a higher score. It was so incredibly frustrating because the better you did, the better the penguin did as well, at least in my experience. So I got a second drop before I was finally able to beat their dumb little face at this dumb little game, and god, I'm never playing curling again. This is all to say that, if you ever play cats, please do not put yourself through this. The game has its good points, but this is definitely not one of them. I take a long bath in the hot spring to cool off, metaphorically, before continuing on my quest to save the world or something. In a display of unparalleled intellect, I dropped the warm stone that I'd heated up in the hot springs at Whisker Woods before coming here, in a cold pond, right in front of a giant meltable ice cube that I could have melted if my monkey brain didn't immediately press the button prompt on the screen and turned my hot stone into a cool stone. Curling trauma is real, you guys. I do some ice skating, take a quick detour to get clawed by this polar bear for a piece of spinach, and nearly freeze to death before deciding to finally pick up the ice crystal and return to Theophilus. With that, we finally have all the pieces to make the magic shield, but he's going to need the help of his younger brother Bartholomew in order to make it. Bartholomew ran off into the mountains 10 years ago and never came back. According to Theophilus, he probably just got sidetracked. You'd think he'd be a bit more worried if it's been 10 years? I feel like he may have gotten involved in a murder case here. Anyway, since Theophilus decided it wasn't necessary to actually teleport us back to Pawville this time, I take the opportunity to fill out my magical encyclopedia as I'm going back through these areas. Sky Heights takes no time at all, as I was only missing a single butterfly that had luckily spawned right by the exit. Tail Heights is a little bit more of a bother thanks to how fish and bug spawns work in this game. This information is basically only interesting to speedrunners and nerds, but let me explain anyway. Basically, each area has several spawn tables it can pull from every time you load the map. For bugs, this takes the form of predetermined sets, where the location is the same every time. Meaning, for example, if you find a swallowtail right in front of the specific snake, you've pulled setup number 3, which I, of course, pulled 4 times in a row. And there will be a Piridae near the windmill without fail. For fish it's a little bit more annoying, since whatever you hook from a pier is completely RNG based, and you don't know if a specific fish is even catchable in the currently loaded table unless you actually catch it, or you catch a fish which is mutually exclusive from another fish. Think version exclusives in Pokemon, but it changes which one you have on map reload, which, as you can probably imagine, leads to a lot of wasted time, much like me explaining this incredibly niche game mechanic. Don't worry, we're done now. This basically just means that catching all the insects is 10 times easier than collecting all the fish. After a few reloads, we managed to clear out Tail Heights and move on to Lappy Lake. Luckily, the game throws the one bug we were missing here right in our face as we enter the map. Unluckily, we now have to catch another golden fish, this time the golden killifish. We call on our good friend the hippo to ferry us across to the raised little island and get casting. It takes 40 minutes! At this point, I am really starting to regret going for 100%, but I'm committed to the bit, and I've gone too far to stop now. Regardless, since we're back in Pawville anyway, I'm going to take a break and do some more story. Next on the agenda is heading to Jade Fields, where we can now push the 4-paw print boulder out of the way to reach Lonesome Park. As soon as we enter the area, Evelyn decides to make himself even more of a nuisance by spawning tornadoes everywhere. There's also a buffalo staring dead at us, who challenges us to a chicken race battle, which basically just means we have to skid to a stop as close to the edge of the pier as possible without falling off. Unfortunately, I'm a terrible, terrible gamer and lose, several times. But it's fine, I beat them on like the 7th attempt. It's harder than it looks, I swear. Once that's over, I have some fun watching the whirlwinds phase into the 5th dimension and scout around a bit before moving onwards to Gongaro Peak. And this is my favorite music track in the whole entire game. I can't really describe it in an eloquent way other than the fact that it makes me feel like I'm in a film montage where I'm traveling across the Wild West in one of those little caravans with a white fabric roof. I promise this is the last time I'll rave about the soundtrack, but just, man. I can only imagine the composer walked into the studio, was told, yeah, you don't need to put a lot of effort into this, it's just Petz Catz too, nodded, cracked their knuckles, and proceeded to crank out one of the best video game OSTs of the late 2000s. Anyway, this is Bruce, who lives in this village, and he tells us about a mysterious traveler who once upon a time sealed the whirlwinds away with a magic spell. Unfortunately, he went up into Gongaro Peak a while back and never came back down. Sound familiar? He teaches us the scent of the anti-tornado ring, which begs the question why he didn't go look for him himself before sending us on our way. Of course, though, I take every detour in the book before even thinking of following the scent. I find an escaped lion who I actually thought was an enemy at first, so I tried sneaking around him. But then he magically summoned an ice field in the middle of the desert and challenged me to a game of hockey, which was just really sad to watch. Like, he scored against himself half the time. I also managed to stun this buffalo, which, I don't know, I was proud of. And then promptly proceeded to have a heart attack because of this lion chasing after me. See, this is why I'm never living in the desert. Once I've grabbed everything I can, I follow the trail to a suspiciously wizard-shaped statue in this dead end. To nobody's surprise, the suspiciously wizard-shaped statue turns into a suspiciously shaped wizard, Bartholomew, who tells us that he turned himself into a rock to watch other rocks. Whatever makes you happy. Bartholomew then gives us the anti-tornado ring and tells us we can seal the whirlwinds away by tossing rocks at them. Who knew, right? After defeating Tornado Alley with the power of the mighty pebble, we return to Bartholomew, who is now thoroughly de-stoned and agrees to come back and see his brother. In the meantime, Illet throws a tantrum at the sight of us destroying his beautiful tornado children, so the magic cat turns him into this World of Warcraft looking ass thing and then proceeds to give birth to a dragon. I'm not joking, this is an accurate description of what goes on in this cutscene. Petz Catz too, everybody! Anyway, we witness a touching reunion of brothers, who then quickly get to work making that magic shield. And that's it! After this, it's only the final boss battle left, making it the perfect time to take care of any unfinished business. For me, that means 100%ing the game, for otherwise my world would be empty and cold. We've actually already returned all the zoo animals throughout our travels, so that only leaves completing the Magic Encyclopedia, as well as the 3 optional side quests we have remaining. Since this script is getting pretty long already, cue collecting montage! This is just a coelacanth. What, was the actual name just too complicated for little kids, or were you all scared of getting a copyright strike from God or something? A couple hours later, we've gathered all the special fruits and veggies for our measly 2 hearts, reluctantly given Charles' golden anglerfish, and collected all of the insects, fish, fruits, vegetables, and flowers for the Magic Encyclopedia. I'm kind of disappointed that Beat makes no comment on this, considering they're the one who gave it to us in the first place. Nor is there really any reward other than some black clothing items for each section and the satisfaction and serotonin of a job well done, which I guess should be enough, but still. Regardless, the time has come for our journey to come to a close. All that's left is to defeat Ivlet and take back the magic hat. We scale our way to Sky Heights, ruin the dramatic tension by going back after realizing I forgot to save, and meet with Theophilus and Bartholomew to begin the final confrontation. Sensing that the magic shield has been completed, Ivlet invites us to join him in the Shadow Realm by opening a portal in the wizard's house. Once inside, Theophilus activates the magic shield, separating Ivlet and the magic hat, which royally pisses him off, causing him to stick his pet dragon on us. Unfortunately, said pet dragon is no match for 3 well-aimed pebbles and goes down in 2 shakes of a cat's tail. Ivlet, on the other hand, is a little bit trickier. We have to grab a pebble and sneak from barrier to barrier to get closer to him so that he doesn't notice us, and then throw it at him before he gets the chance to attack. After which we meow really loudly at him in order to deal 8d6 in emotional damage and whittle down his health. I may or may not have accidentally knocked him off the edge and into the void at one point. He's okay though, he can fly, he's fine! With the use of a wee bit of bait tactics, we eventually managed to land the final blow, reverting Ivlet's Mega Evolution. We immediately get the hell out of Dodge since the pocket dimension is in danger of collapsing and, just leave Ivlet to die, I guess? Jeez, this game got dark. Once we're back in our world, Beat makes a decision to return to the magic hat in what I think is supposed to be a heartful and touching moment. Oh honey, I've forgotten about you at least 3 separate times already. Afterwards, Theophilus and Bartholomew thank us for saving the world and send us home with the magic hat, where we give our cat mom a slow-mo hug while Cat Dad just kinda watches. I think he's in cahoots with Warren. Once we're inside our house, Cat Dad decides he's, understandably, sick of the responsibility of having to keep the island peaceful, and hands off the duties of the magic hat to us. My pumpkin beret! And just like that, the game's over. The credits roll and we're sent back to the title screen. So, how has this game held up? Compared to my memory of it, not great. Then again, those were the times before I developed terminal completionist syndrome. Ah, what a carefree child I was. For a PS2 game released in 2007 just in general though, it actually holds up pretty damn well. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but it's a fun little romp through a cute cat world where you do cute cat things, like bullying little birds, and beating up weird-looking evil wolves and their dragons. The graphics are beautiful by PS2 standards, and it's really not that long if you're not torturing yourself at collecting everything. As you can probably tell, I'm not very good at reviewing games in any meaningful way other than hee-hoo cat cute. But I definitely recommend giving it a shot if it seems like your cup of tea. Even though the experience was a bit shaky at times, it was honestly awesome to be able to relive one of my favorite childhood games like this. If I don't get burnt out, I'd really like to make this a series. Next on my list of old games to replay is The Dog Island, which, from my very hazy memory of it, is like cats, but better, and also with dogs. But we'll see if that's true or not. The better part, I mean. I'm like 98% sure there's dogs in there. If you've somehow managed to stick around for this long, thank you. It means a lot to me that someone would want to watch me ramble for like, God, how long is the script? 1 or 2 hours at least. About some old PS2 game that only a few people ever played. And if you did play it in the past, I hope this was a fun little trip down memory lane and that it might inspire you to look through your old games catalog as well. So, yeah. Feel free to subscribe and all that stuff if you think that this series might interest you, drink some water, and have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching.